Hi, my name is Courtney Klinkert, and the previous work that I will be presenting on is a short film from my Production 2 class last year called I Don't Get It Either. It is a short film about pop music, relationships, and aliens. So the basic plot line is that Herbert the alien has come to Earth to research the concept of love and human relationships because that is not something that they do on their planet. They solely get together to procreate. But he gets stuck there after his spaceship breaks. And the conflict arises when he discovers that pop music can crack through his human disguise and returns him back to his alien form. And the only thing that can bring him back human is if he can guzzle down some orange juice. That is the only cure. So the cacophonous sounds of pop music are just too painful for him to bear, and his human disguise crumbles and he becomes his alien self. So this story follows him and his fake girlfriend Francis as they argue about why he would never wants to meet her family or meet her friends. So I will show two of my favorite clips from this film. It's not the most polished, most beautiful film, but it is one of my favorite projects I've been a part of nonetheless. In the second clip, so that is Herbert and Francis. My roles on this film, I wore a lot of different hats. So during production two, we went through a film boot camp. So our professor, Pat Wimp, um, had us create a film every 2 weeks in our groups. Every 2 weeks there was a new genre. Every 2 weeks there was a new stipulation. So this genre was this comedy, and our stipulation was that we had to include pop music and it had to be sci-fi. So I functioned as a producer for the most part. This is what I like to do. This is what my concentration and my focus is in my major. This is something that I'm interested in. So it also just kind of comes from a love of control and wanting to be able to control what happens and have creative control and just kind of always be in the loop. I always like to know what's going on. I also kind of played casting director for this film because of the short turnaround times. So the film's 2 weeks. A couple of my group members ended up starring in it as Frances and her friend, and then I had another friend who enjoys acting who played Herbert the alien. So in a way, I played casting director. On set, I shot most of the film on a Ronin, as well as did most of the direction. Since I was the co-writer, the other writer, Haley, who also played Francis, we kind of bounced the script back and forth, but the original idea was mine, and obviously props. I purchased the mask, and because of the short turnaround time, everyone in the group kind of had to play a role and pitch in for props and pitch in for everything else. So one of the main things that I didn't have to worry about was sound. We had to bring on some crew for that, and lighting and things like that. So I had to wear many hats just because of the turnaround time and the lack of preparation. And so normally it wouldn't be like that. I would prefer to just be a creative producer. But reflecting on the roles, like I said, casting was a challenge. We had to compromise. Directing isn't really my preference, but it was great to see the vision come to life. It's part of what I love about producing. Writing is something that I would love to do and love to be good at, but it's just not something that I practice regularly. So it was really, really awesome to see the positive feedback from an idea that was mine and an idea that I was able to expand on. And like I said, the props arose kind of out of necessity. A lot of Amazon Prime orders and one-day shipping, and the poor planning kind of hurt the project as a whole. As you saw, Herbert's costume wasn't stellar, so we could have worked a little bit harder on that part of it. As far as receiving feedback for the project, surprisingly, the feedback we got was pretty spectacular. As part of the boot camp, every 2 weeks, Pat would award a trophy to the film that was voted on by the other section of the class. So we would watch the other section's films, and they would watch ours, and they would take a vote. And so for the genre that was comedy, we actually won the trophy for that week. I guess everybody really liked it. It won mostly for the plot. People saw past the shoddy production to the story underneath, and since I aspired to be a writer, that was something that made me pretty happy. It's nerve-wracking sometimes to expose your own work, especially when you know that it's not the best that you can do. So we were critiqued heavily on lighting and props, as well as clarity sometimes. Pat brought up the rule of thirds, so just getting the point across that when Herbert hears pop music, he turns into an alien, and getting across the whole orange juice being the cure thing and how it's just supposed to be silly. There's not really an explanation, so just making sure that the audience gets the story in the short amount of time that was had. But the significance of this project, the reason why I chose it, even though it's not obviously the best production in the world, is just because it's an example of how me and Haley found a vision and we saw it through. So this was one of the first times that I had so much investment in a single project. So normally when you're producing, or when I'm producing, it's not my content and I didn't write it, and the emotional tie isn't always there, but this time it was a concept of my own and something that I was passionate about, and something that I wanted to see come to life. So I had a lot more of a creative direction versus solely doing pre-production and making sure the money and the budget and the props and the actors and the casting and making sure everyone else is doing their job. I kind of had more of a hands-on experience on set instead of just doing the nitty-gritty. I was able to kind of play around and have fun. It was a lot of fun to work with this group of people. I still talk to them now. You really get to know people when you're on set with them for a few days, and having to make a film together every 2 weeks was pretty crazy. This project kind of enhanced my desire to work on shorter videos, so I really don't have a desire to move to LA and shoot narrative movies and be on set for months at a time working 18-hour days. I'd rather do much shorter videos and videos that mean something to me, because something that I found I really valued was having control and direction. So just being able to take an original idea and make it myself. So definitely piqued my interest into more shorter documentary style productions and things like that, maybe marketing, just things where I could do lots of different projects simultaneously, like every 2 weeks crank out a new idea, because I just get bored of kind of doing the same thing over and over again. So although this Wasn't the most beautiful film, like I said. It did help me realize a lot of things about the direction of my career and what I like to do and how I work best with people. So I hope that you enjoyed the clips. Thank you very much.